What's up everyone, Harry over at Tackle Express. Today we're going to be covering my top freshwater bass fishing lures for 2025 that I didn't fish in 2024. And the first bait on my list today are blade baits. We've had a lot of customers coming in raving about these guys at the shop. These are the Damiki vault bladed baits. The reason why I chose these, I got two options. I got a lighter 42 gram option with a tail blade. This is going to be a really good bait to fish in anywhere from 10 to about 15, 20 feet of water. And that little tail blade on the back is going to do two things for me. It's going to emit a vibration, also give a flash. So again, for the murkier conditions, this is going to be able to stand out a little bit. They're going to feel it. So that's going to be my option for our little bit dirtier lakes around me. While this larger 48 gram, this guy does not come with the tail blade. So this guy's a little more subtle. You can fish this guy anywhere from about 15 to about 25 feet of water. I'm going to plan to fish this in my deeper water reservoirs, especially when the fish are on a shad presence. So I can, again, 15 to 25 feet of water. You can rip it, drag it. This bait is very versatile that I'm really looking forward to trying this season. Next, we got a couple different topwaters on my radar, starting off with the Heddon Boyo. This is a little newer to me personally. It's definitely not a new bait. It's been around for a long time. But one of the reasons why I chose this bait specifically is because it's shorter, stubbier profile. It's a little different from most of the stuff on the market. So it just kind of grabbed my attention, and it's something I want to give a try this season. While on the other hand, I also have a Lucky Craft gunfish. I typically fish the Sammy, which is a walk the dog bait, but in comparison to this Lucky Craft gunfish, the Sammys are usually a little bit fatter in profile, while this one's a little bit skinny. And if you look at the front of this bait, it has a coupled bill, which is going to spit water and walk the dog at the same time. It's a very, very popular bait here at the shop. I sell a ton of them, and I have used them in the past, but this season for 2025, I am going to try and dedicate myself to trying to fish this gunfish a little bit more because of the property of the spitting bill and still having that walk the dog action as well. Then stepping it up a little bit, I typically don't throw a topwater quite this large, but it is going to remain in my arsenal for this season. The times where I might want to fish this larger Sammy spook is going to be when the bait fish in my local reservoirs are going to be larger in size, or if I'm just simply looking to try and grab a fish from the depths and look for a larger bite that I'm not going to get with, say, my gunfish or my little Heddon Boyo. This bait has a nice opaque pearly belly to it and the nice little flash on the side. So you are going to get a flash when it cuts side to side, but all in all, this is going to be a bait that I'm looking forward to fishing, looking for a little bit better quality of fish. Up next, we got the Majorcraft Jigpara spins. But before I jump in talking on those, if you like this video and want to see more, feel free to like and subscribe and ring that bell to be notified on our next video to see more like this. But continuing on with the Majorcraft Jigpara spins, reason why these are on my list this time is they make a few different sizes. I currently have 3 set up. I got a 7 gram, 18 gram, and a 25 gram. So all these different sizes allows me to cover a few different bases. This little itty bitty 7 gram I can use for panfish such as trout, and even these larger ones you can catch all your bass species, including stripers. But sometimes when I might want to fish this little bitty 7 gram is when the bait is real small and I just need the smallest, most finessey presentation possible. That's when I'm going to pick this guy up. But looking at some of the larger options, you'll notice that there's a little more attention to detail on these guys. What I really like about these baits, and something that stuck out to me and made me choose this, is the size of the rear tail blade. This blade is equally just about the same size as the bait itself, so that's going to give a lot of vibration. It's going to give off a lot of flash, which I see bringing a lot of attention from the deeper depths and some more aggressive fish to come out and make a presence and make themselves known. It has a really nice fin here on the back, which is going to keep this bait keeled. It's not going to want to roll out of the ordinary. It's going to swim straight as can be. And the best way to fish this, from all the research that I've done and the little experience that I have, these get bit very, very good on just straight turning the handle, not doing anything special. You can speed it up and incorporate some pops every once in a while, but the main way that this guy gets bit is just simply turning the handle. The next bait, which I'm the most excited to talk about for my upcoming 2025 season, I have fished both of the baits that I'm about to show you, and they both have a time and a place for each, but I'll describe of why I'm changing my tactics up a little bit this season. So, the Depths Budge Jet is my #1 go-to crawling wake bait. It gets bit on small fish, big fish. I really like to use these throwing along cover. For instance, I have a local lake that has a lot of tulies, docks. There's a lot of coverage for these fish to hide, and this is a great bait that I can send down those channels along the tulies, underneath the docks, and through all the pilings. This guy specifically has this L-style shaped bill. It's a little bit on the thicker side in terms of profile, and it has this little propeller on the back. So this is a super loud bait. It's very obnoxious, but it works very, very well. But the bait that I have on my list that I plan to fish for 2025 is the Jackal Pompadour Junior more specifically. They do make a full size, so if you're looking for a big bite, by all means, the full size is a great option. But the reason as of why I picked the Junior this season is it's a really nice size profile. It's not too big, it's not too small. I can fish this in a lot of different areas, whether it be at my local pond or at my main lake reservoirs. This is a nice size bait, again, not too big or too small. But one of the biggest key features that stuck out on this Pompadour in comparison to my Depths Budge Jet are these metal wings on the Pompadour. These metal wings are very, very loud, and they're very obnoxious. As this bait's crawling through the water, literally crawling, these wings will come out back and forth. They grab water and they push and pull. It creates a very large disturbance. It's extremely loud, and it'll grab a lot of fish's attention that aren't interested in biting, but because of this super loud, obnoxious bait, it'll bring a lot of those fish from the depths to come and check out this larger bait. And again, the way that I plan to fish both of these baits in the 2025 season is throwing along cover. At my local lake, I have a harsh amount of tulies. They're everywhere. I have docks littered all around the lake, so I got tule coverage, docks, pilings, you name it. This is going to be one of my top used baits for covering water. Crankbaits have always been tried and true, and I use them on numerous occasions, and there's a lot of different brands out there. Strike King, Megabass, you name it, there's a lot. But the ones that are in my 2025 list are these new Damiki DC300s. These are not a brand new crankbait, but newer to me. These guys have a diving depth of about 12 to 15 feet, so these are a really nice mid-column crankbait. I'm gonna look forward to fishing these at my local lakes. I do have some deeper water reservoirs, which these are going to excel in, these shallower areas. Again, these baits are going to dive in that 12 to 15 foot range. And I got two different colors selected. I got this really pretty natural looking shad imitation. It's also got a nice amount of glitter flash with a harsh yellow stripe. This is going to be my more productive clear water reservoir fishing. You could fish it in some murkier conditions as well, but for me, this is going to excel in my shallower clear water applications. While you got this one over here, which is a fire craw. This one comes with a harsher red. This is a really good spring bait when those crawdads are just coming out of the ground, poking themselves out. They come in those harsh red spawning colors. So that's a really good bait that I plan to fish in the springtime. Finishing hard baits off our list, lastly we have jerkbaits. The reason why the jerkbaits are on my list for my 2025 season is for one main reason specifically, is I'm never usually too successful with catching fish on jerkbaits. I have caught fish with them. You can catch fish with jerkbaits nearly year round, but for me, I've never had the great success that a lot of other fishermen have had. So I'm gonna try and bring these into my 2025 2025 season to be more confident and hopefully begin to catch more fish with jerkbaits. But the number one on my list here is the Lucky Craft Pointer 78. This is a relatively smaller profile, which is going to match the hatch on that smaller bait that's in our local reservoirs. And this ghost minnow color is extremely natural, and it's one of my more preferred colors when I do fish jerkbaits. So that's the reason why this Pointer 78 is on my list. But then I have the little bit nicer Megabass Vision 110. This color specifically was turned on to me from a customer in store. He was catching quite a few fish on it. I haven't used it personally, but due to this particular customer review, he really put me in the direction of wanting to try one of these guys out. So for this upcoming 2025 season, the two jerkbaits that I chose for the relatively smaller profile, natural color, and the little bit larger, more precise in tune jerkbait. So hopefully with these two items should turn my jerkbait success even better this 2025 season. Starting on the soft plastics in my 2025 list, I have two baits that are real similar together. We have the Rapala Crush City Mooch Minnows, which is a really nice, subtle shad baitfish imitation. As you can see on this guy, it has that little weird fork tail there. So it's virtually like a paddle tail swim bait, but instead of having the harsh paddle to it, you can see it's a lot more subtle. So it's gonna have less movement, which in theory, this is going to be a more natural presentation for our local fish. Another reason why I like this Rapala Crush City stuff is because they are extremely stretchy and buoyant. So for a lot of different reasons, the buoyancy, the lighter jig heads, it's going to create a slower fall. I really like fishing in the more suspended area with baits like this, including flukes. They're very similar, but the reason why this Rapala Crush City Mooch Minnow is on my list is because the subtlety of its tail, the stretchiness, as well as its overwhelming durability. And again, this one is much more subtle with its style of tail, but transitioning, I also have some of the Kitech shad impacts, which you can see a little bit different. This one has the pin tail instead of that little fork there. And as you can see, this is extremely erratic, super soft, pliable plastic. The only thing with the Kitechs is they're not quite as durable, but they do have a scent infused with them. So without having to add any additional scent, they already come pre-scented. And the way that I plan to fish these baits this season specifically, I have two different jig heads. I have your traditional owner darter heads that I have used on many different occasions for a lot of different styles of baits. But due to the newer side of fishing, the core tackle stuff has been extremely popular for your more hover strolling with the forward-facing sonars. Even if you don't have a forward-facing sonar, as myself, I do not, I'm still gonna plan to use some of these core tackle jig heads because of the way that you can rig these. You can have the whole jig head completely enclosed inside of the bait to where all you have is a hook tie and your hook hanging out. And again, reasons why I plan to fish these is because they are extremely natural and lifelike to all of our local bait fish. You got your super subtle Rapala Crush City Mooch Minnow, as well as your Kitech Shad Impact. We have another jig head on my list today that I'm really looking forward to fishing. It's brand new to me. We just got them into the shop recently and I'm really liking the way they're looking. But that's these new Zappu 0-inch Wacky Plus weighted wacky hooks. This is something I've never seen before from the brand, the shape, style, and all. Some of the biggest features that grab my attention on this jig head specifically are the weed guards here. So that's gonna help protect you from a lot of your grass and most of the stick-ups that we get caught on so frequently. But the number one thing that was different to me is this weighted, or this ball tungsten weight that's on the shank of the hook instead of being up here at the jig head. So where this weight is located is going to create a different fall. I'm really looking forward to fishing this at my heavily trafficked lake personally. So therefore, when the fish in the summertime are in a little bit deeper depths due to the temperatures, they'll probably be anywhere from anywhere from about 15, 20 feet at the deepest typically. So with this little bit larger weighted hook, again, this is tungsten, so it's going to be smaller profile with a denser weight. So this is going to allow me to fish some of the deeper depths that I wasn't able to fish before. So for 2025, this is one of the more exciting things for me personally. And lastly on my list of baits that I plan to fish this 2025 season is gonna be the free rig. The free rig is relatively newer to the States. It actually originated in the West Coast and transitioned its way all the way through the East. But essentially what it is it's a finesse version of a Carolina rig, minus you have no Carolina keeper or swivel to stop your sliding weight. For instance, here we have this more teardrop style cylindrical shaped weight, and if you look real closely, you'll notice that this particular weight has an open eye. What that open eye is going to allow is for this to swing freely up and down the line with minimal resistance, if any. So you can select a few different baits, but the free rig itself is the free sliding weight. But what I have selected up here is a robo worm. You can use a fluke, some sort of creature bait. What you're trying to achieve with the free rig is to achieve a nice separation. You want this weight to sink to the bottom and have your bait up here slowly flickering, fluttering, or whatever style bait you chose is going to do what it needs to do properly. So number one thing with the free rig weight itself, you do want a more cylindrical style, starting from thin at the head and gradually getting thicker towards the bottom. And you want to use a relatively heavier weight than you would for, say, a drop shot or a split shot. Reason as to why is, again, you want to get that separation. Reason why the free rig is on my list this season. It is a newer tactic. It's not brand new. I have used it in the past, but I haven't quite given it its time and dedication that it deserves. And I was also using weights that were probably a little too small in the past. So for this 2025 season, I am really looking forward to fishing the free rig more. I'm going to be fishing this in deeper water, is what I plan to do with it. 3/8 and 1/4 ounce weights, and I'm going to try and fish depths anywhere from 15 to about 30 feet of water is what I'm thinking to do. So I'm going to throw this on the outside of grass lines. I'm going to throw it down on a suspended ball of bait. So the free rig can be fished in a few different ways, but what you're really ultimately trying to do is to get your bait completely away from this weight once it hits the bottom, and again, it'll slowly flutter, spin, do whatever it is that it needs to do on its way down to the bottom. And there you have it, everyone. Here's the top baits that I plan to fish this 2025 season. Feel free to drop a comment below of what you plan to fish this upcoming season. And don't forget to follow us and share your catches with us on social media, Instagram and Facebook. And until the next video, tight lines, Harriet Tackle Express.